There's a quiet moment, just before everything changes, when life feels uncertain, heavy, or strangely unfamiliar. You might not realize it yet, but this moment could be the beginning of something extraordinary. Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, believed that we don't truly begin living until we face ourselves, until we stop running. The best stage of your life doesn't arrive with applause or obvious milestones. It begins when something inside you stirs and whispers, "This isn't who I am anymore." Transformation doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like falling apart. But in Jung's psychology, falling apart is sacred. It's the dismantling of the false self, the beginning of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you were always meant to be. Here are 5 subtle but powerful signs that you're not breaking down. You're breaking through. Sign number 1. You feel lost or empty. There's a unique kind of emptiness that doesn't mean something is missing. It means something is trying to emerge. Jung believed that feelings of confusion, disconnection, and even despair are not signs of failure. They are signals from the unconscious, calling you back to yourself. This sensation of being lost, of no longer knowing where you're going or why, is often the very first step in the journey toward individuation. When the old goals no longer inspire you, when your routines feel meaningless, when you begin to question everything you used to chase, this is the psyche's way of saying, it's time to go deeper. Sign number 2, you're questioning everything. There comes a point when the surface of life no longer satisfies. You start asking deeper questions, not just, what do I want, but who am I beneath all of this? When you begin to examine your beliefs, your choices, your relationships, even your dreams, you are no longer living from inherited patterns. You are beginning to think with your soul. This phase can feel destabilizing. The things you used to accept without thought suddenly feel artificial. You notice contradictions in yourself. You begin to wonder if the path you're on is really yours, or just a story you've been handed by others. This is not a crisis. This is clarity unfolding. The questions may not have answers right away, but the fact that you're asking them at all means your consciousness is expanding. Sign number 3. Old patterns are breaking. You start noticing it in the small moments. The way certain conversations exhaust you, how you nod in agreement when you no longer do, how laughter feels forced in rooms where you used to feel at home. Something's shifting, and it's irreversible. Carl Jung described the persona as the social mask we wear, the version of ourselves designed to win approval, fit in, and survive. It's a necessary tool, but when the persona becomes too tight, too distant from the true self, the psyche begins to resist. You might feel like you're not yourself anymore, but that's not entirely true. You're actually becoming more yourself than you've ever been. It just doesn't look the way it used to. Old habits crack. You may lose interest in careers, friendships, or lifestyles that once defined you. This can be terrifying because it threatens your identity. But according to Jung, this is initiation. The death of the persona is a necessary death. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about shedding what was never truly you. And in that shedding, you begin to hear a quieter voice, the authentic one, the voice of the self that's been waiting beneath the mask. Sign number 4, you're drawn to solitude. You no longer crave noise the way you once did. The crowded spaces, constant stimulation, endless conversations, they begin to feel like distractions. Instead, you find yourself pulled toward solitude, not out of sadness, but necessity. You may find yourself journaling without knowing why, sitting in silence without reaching for your phone, walking for hours, letting your thoughts drift and rearrange. Jung believed that solitude is essential for psychological growth, not isolation, but sacred space where the noise of the world dies down enough for the inner voice to be heard. The The more you step into your true self, the more you realize how much of life is lived in performance. And to unlearn that performance, you need stillness. Sign number 5. You're confronting your shadow. At some point on your path, the light of growth casts darker shadows. Old wounds resurface. You're suddenly face to face with parts of yourself you've long avoided. Anger, envy, fear, shame. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the hidden side of our personality. Everything we've denied, suppressed, or deemed unacceptable. Not because it's evil, but because we thought we had to hide it to be loved. When you begin confronting your shadow, it can feel like a regression. You may think, I should be past this. But in truth, this is sacred work. You are not falling back. You are going deeper. You start noticing your projections, the things you judge harshly in others that live, quietly, within you. You catch yourself reacting in old patterns, but now with awareness. That awareness is the key, because the shadow, when ignored, controls us, but when acknowledged, it becomes our teacher. To meet the shadow is not to become dark, it's to become whole. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video. Your support helps more people discover these ideas. And if you're enjoying this journey into the mysteries of the mind, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, back to the video. After the unraveling, something soft begins to return. Not all at once, but in glimmers. You start to feel a quiet trust, not in circumstances, but in yourself, in life. Carl Jung wrote that the goal of life is individuation, becoming whole. And when you're aligned with yourself, the deeper, wiser part of you, you begin to sense the unfolding of life as meaningful, even when it's uncertain. You notice synchronicities. The right words find you at the right time. A sense of peace arises, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer resisting your path. Decisions feel clearer, not because they're easy, but because they come from within. You listen to your intuition. You say no without guilt. You say yes without fear. You stop needing to control every outcome. You trust the flow. You understand, finally, that life isn't happening to you. It's happening with you. This trust isn't naive. It's earned, born from the fire you walked through, the masks you removed, the truths you faced. And now, you carry that trust like a compass, quiet, unwavering, deeply your own. If these signs speak to you, the solitude, the crumbling roles, the pull toward something real, know this: you are not lost, you are becoming. Carl Jung taught that the journey to wholeness is not linear. It winds through light and shadow, through death and rebirth, through the painful letting go of what we thought we had to be. The best stage of your life doesn't always begin with fireworks. Sometimes it starts with silence, with a breakdown, with walking away from everything familiar, not because you've failed, but because you've outgrown it. You're not just healing, you're integrating. You're not just changing, you're returning to yourself. You are shedding illusions, breaking open, rerouting, and the life that's forming now may not look like the one you planned, but it will feel like truth. Trust that. Trust yourself. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are on the path, raw, real, and alive. This is not the end. This is your beginning. If you're ready to keep exploring the inner journey, the wisdom of Jung, the power of philosophy, subscribe. And if someone you love is walking through the dark before the dawn, share this with them. Sometimes, all we need is a reminder that transformation feels like falling apart, just before it feels like coming home. See you in the next video.